VoyMonk vlog number 84. That's Friday vlog. Yeah, you know something I'm thinking is that there are not, because I know there's representation and that's good and whatnot, but I don't think there's enough ugly people on TV. I don't mean like personality wise. I'm saying like TV. How come there's not enough ugly people on TV? Or actually, I know why. Remember, I never mind. I answered I'm speaking on behalf of myself. Because I like to see my own kind on TV a little bit. That would be kind of. I'm just. Not enough stupid people. Never mind. There are enough stupid people. I'm sorry. I am not. I'm just saying. Like I know some people are like, well, I'm just not some average people. The thing is, I ask these questions, and I'm trying to be silly, but I know the answer why. It's because, if you don't appeal in a certain way, it just doesn't matter what demographic you're from or representative of. I think it's easy to say that probably a lot of people kind of see and look on TV or recognize, content the way that it is and say, you know what, I don't think that represents anybody. I don't know any, like, for example, like Saved by the Bell, right? Right. I'm being facetious and trying to be Sally, but nobody does any of that. California or in high school, I was a teenager. Nobody did that. Beverly Hills 90210. I assume that rich people probably have different lives if you go to high school, but I don't know, man. I don't think so, man. I don't think so. And I'm not complaining about things being unrealistic. I'm just honestly having fun with this being a Friday. But I do kind of stand by a little bit the ugly people thing. There aren't enough ugly people on anything. There's some not so great looking people. Although maybe I'm not watching enough cable television because I think there might be some ugly people still on there. But then again, maybe that's because nobody's actually watching cable television anymore. They've moved on to internet streaming services and stuff, and YouTube, like me. My ugly yeah. And I'm not going to say who's ugly because that's not very nice. Besides me, I can say that about me. But yeah, I don't know. I think, honestly, when it comes to just content in general, and when, we talk about representation and what it really is or isn't, I'm not necessarily sure that, some of these places that are looked at are really great models. But like I said, I'm not necessarily against anything either. I'm not. I think it's fine. I think if there's anything that kind of bothers me is more or less just content itself. I want to say specifically more, and I'll use this as an example, Goodfellas, right? If you've seen the movie Goodfellas, right? Okay, you know what it's about. It's about a guy named Henry Hill. And basically he's in the mob in or around the 70s and into the 80s. And he basically gets himself into a lot of situations and whatnot. I don't want to give away the plot. Maybe I kind of should. But the point is that throughout the movie, for the most part, he doesn't actually himself get into a lot of anything besides drug dealing. for which he is represented as being arrested and going to jail. And then, of course, having the guys he used to work with in the mob target him. That, and of course, ratting them all out and whatever, for which, oddly enough, he actually lived and died of natural causes. But my point is that for all the realism and, the great film that it was in terms of its score and directing and acting and all that stuff or whatever, which it's recognized for, I don't really quite understand exactly how it is he was able to go through this entire life of crime. But under no circumstance has it shown as he's taking part in it in any real way besides one. Like, he doesn't murder or kill anyone except for the fact that he's around people who have murdered and killed people, kind of willy-nilly. Does that make sense? I mean, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. And when I say as far as how realistic, I mean, there's a whole genre of content on here where, you have former mobsters and made guys. And I'm not trying to say anything's bad about these people at all, because I'm not stupid. But I don't really quite understand, the portrayals and the claims that are made in like movies like that or Casino and whatnot. And yet well, actually, I don't think Casino is quite the same issue as Goodfellas, but it just pretty much goes into the theme of what I was saying as far as Hollywood representation and then reality, and it's just like, then of course I'm sure there's plenty of people that grew up in Brooklyn and a lot of places in New York that probably didn't have anything to do with the mob. They probably may have their own issues. But that being said, like I said, representation is, my point, not really been Hollywood's forte. And when it comes to entertainment, I don't think it is either. Although I do understand the concerns and, the importance of representation, no matter who it is. It's just that I think the conversation could be made that perhaps when it comes to the world that we see around us, sure, we like it fictionalized. Sure, we like to see things a certain way and have it be about the things that inspire us rather than those things that, bring us down into reality. And I've talked a little bit about that throughout the week in different detail and whatnot. But, it's like, I do think there's something to be said, though, about that. I mean, I've talked about expectations and maybe some of the marketing that has gone into, what people see, what people perceive, what becomes, their here and now in reality, and the time that is spent making that investment as far as, if you see a certain lifestyle, if you see something that you think that you can have, or maybe you're told that you can have a certain way, that doesn't necessarily always come into fruition. I think one of the cooler things that I've actually seen on TikTok, which of all places I'm kind of surprised, I don't remember the content creator's name. I don't want to look it up but he's one of these people that does TikToks, and he has like a little series of vids where, he puts to the other TikTokers, name a movie that is totally different. It's based on a true story or whatever, but it's not, or something that's far away from reality and stuff. And he does a great series. It's like, it's too bad the whole, thing with TikTok and all that kind of stuff, but it's just, I think he does a great great thing on this. Maybe I'll find a way to maybe link it or something. I don't know. If you have TikTok, maybe you'll know what I'm talking about. But the point there being is that, like I said, I don't have a problem with, the reality versus fiction when it comes to Hollywood per se. It's just me kind of giving my opinion as far as what I think that'll do. I mean, there used to be once upon a time that, and this is a thing that I don't think that I will ever quite understand as far as from a social perspective. Because there was once upon a time, it wasn't just video games, rap music kind of got a bad rap, so to speak, because of its potential sense or its influence on children and vulnerable minds and people who may or may not necessarily see or deem it as being possibly dangerous in terms of what it could or could not do as far as, influence. But the thing that kind of doesn't make sense to me is that, or at least it does make sense in some way, but it doesn't make sense in another in terms of application, is that we know for a fact that marketing works. I'm not talking about conspiratorial nonsense and stuff like that. I mean, we all know that marketing works. I can tell you for a fact it's worked on me. I think most people, if they're honest, probably can tell you that it has worked on them in some capacity, right? But see, the thing is that when we're honest enough to say that, hey, vulnerable minds like, children or whatever, I mean, we don't have Trix the Rabbit selling cereal anymore for a reason, right? We don't have Saturday morning cartoons that I loved, not just because of that, but obviously because of the expansion of cable and different access to content, much in the way it is now. But the point there being is that at some point we have deemed that marketing and manipulation, not necessary for some altruistic, nefarious reasons other than just money, but we've identified and recognized that it can and does and will do harm when it comes in those forms. Yet when we actually see it in other forms like violence, sex addiction, like porn, and I am not making this argument. I'm not suggesting these things are or aren't. I'm not an arbiter. I'm not preaching. I'm not teaching or anything like that. I'm simply musing about representation, about what's real, what's fantasy, what's that, blurred line between the two and where people fall, because I don't think it's just children. I don't think it's just people who might have a vulnerable state, because I think we can all have a vulnerable state, and I think we can all be manipulated and have blind spots. I've talked about earlier this week when it came to, romance scammers and people, having those vulnerabilities in one way. And that's one example of it. I think another is when it comes to like in the interrogations, as far as, police procedures and, what kind of questions are asked and how they're asked and whether or not someone's rights are read to them and whether they really completely understand them or they just hear them and they completely ignore them. The point being is that, and we obviously, I'm not talking about anything political either. I'm not, saying what we should or should not protect people from and all that kind of stuff or whatever. I'm just simply saying as far as what our understanding is and our knowledge. Where is the line? Is TV and television capable of actually doing a lot more, worse than just selling terrible cereal to children that isn't healthy for them, right? Or, I'm saying, or is it something that can actually lead people to doing a lot more? And that when you're talking about brains and how they develop, whether they're vulnerable, whether they're susceptible or not, that is really quite a wide range of what could or could not be included. Therefore, the remedies or the solutions to how to deal with or even accept that knowledge and understanding of the truth that, yes, people can be manipulated. People also do have, agency and, cognitive ability to where they should be as full grown, mature adults able to make distinctions. The fact of the matter is that it seems to be a plethora of examples of it being or going both ways and not just one. And it just seems like there are ways that we accept it and there are ways that we don't accept it. And it doesn't seem like it's just simply based on the facts. I think sometimes it's actually based on perception and a little bit of our own cognitive biases as well. Like I said, I can use the romance scammer as an example, but like I said, I'm not making an argument for anything. I'm just simply kind of wondering, in terms of our representation, does it matter? Is it important that we see ugly people on the screen? I don't know. I think this isn't necessarily going to be the place to have that discussion, and I don't know if maybe I should have even suggested it, but I'm hoping that I can thread this in a way that isn't about any specific agenda or whatever, but it is about thinking critically about content, and that's it. That's all. It's about content and how that means or whatever. Because, like I said, I speak for myself and speak alone when I suggest or say, there definitely are things that I've personally can say are my blind spots and my weaknesses and things that I've should or couldn't. I mean, I've been told one thing, I've been told another. There's things that I choose to believe and things that I choose not to believe. And that decision, even though it's my own stupidity, that doesn't necessarily regulate that it's someone else's fault either. It's just a simple matter of sometimes it is truly, I guess it could be free will versus, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but again, it can really come down to, I think, a better understanding and maybe, asking some better questions. Because, like I said, I don't know for sure whether or not those are things that truly could or would be actually a part of anything as far as a conversation is about just content in general, and whether or not blurring the lines between fiction and reality is a reality, or it's just one that everybody knows that you can't eat Tide Pods, right? That you can't put super glue in your hair to get it to hold, right? I mean, this isn't television, right? This is the reality. This is content that's available, and so that's the reason why I'm asking the question. Like I said, I don't have a particular agenda. Like, it's not preaching and teaching. It's just me talking about it in life. And, like I said, if it's heavy or too hot, I definitely will tread even more carefully. But I think I've said what I wanted to say. I'm sure I've said what I wanted to say without going into specific arguments that sometimes they're filled with a bunch of different biases and things of that nature. Anyways, that's just going to do it for a Friday vlog. Maybe I should probably have, I don't know, put more into this being a little bit more lighthearted, but I don't know. I felt like this pretty much summed up and wrapped up the week pretty well as far as the vlogs. And like I said, hopefully it still stays lighthearted, but it's just a review. It's just my opinion. And like I said, it isn't meant to be an attack or a specific agenda or anything like that for anyone to reach for or do anything with. Just a conversation. So until my next vlog, take care.